New Brunswick's Premier, Susan Holt, just met with Maine's Governor Janet Mills, and it wasn't just for a photo op. This was a very public attempt to ease rising tensions between the province and the state. Citizens were there, voices were heard, but let's not kid ourselves. This meeting happened because Maine is hurting and they're feeling the pain. That's the real reason. In today's video, I want to break down what's going on, why it matters, and give Premier Holt the credit she actually deserves for how she handled it. Let's get into it.
Look around Canada and there's plenty to show off. But new data shows we've had fewer tourists, including Americans. April saw a nearly 9% drop in U.S. visitors compared to last year. Stateside, it's worse. The number of Canadians returning from the U.S. dropped by 29% year over year as Canadians lean in to more overseas travel.
International travel is rerouted, if I may say, in some other direction, away from the United States.
This is 100% true, and the comments in my videos prove it. Canadians are canceling U.S. trips and heading to the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Japan, Thailand, Europe, even Australia and New Zealand. There's a lot more countries to add to the list as well. And Canadians, we're spending big. I've seen comments mentioning 10K, 20K, even 40K family vacations. That's real money the US isn't getting anymore. And to the guy who scoffed at Canadians spending that much, let's go again. Drop a comment with where you're going and how much you're not spending in the US. I'll start. Australia and Belgium next year for me and my wife, around $12,000. Gone from their economy. Let's keep it going.
Maine has seen fewer Canadian visitors. Today, its governor promoted her state in New Brunswick and heard Canadians' travel concerns. Like David Dennis, who goes to Maine each year, but this year his wife, who's originally from Venezuela, didn't want to.
Her fellow countrymen had been targeted for deportation, and her comments were, "I'm not going to the States this year."
Governor Janet Mills insists her state is safe to visit.
Enjoy our ski slopes, our trails, our villages, our beaches. You can do that safely.
All right, Governor Mills, I've got a few issues with what you said. You claim Canadians can visit Maine and do all that stuff safely. Sure, you've got beaches and trails, though I'd argue ours are better. But how exactly are you guaranteeing safety for Canadians? Because Maine is still part of the US, which means ICE, CBP, and all the baggage that comes with it. Crossing the border isn't just about tourism anymore. It's about whether or not we're going to be hassled, searched, or interrogated on the way in. And yes, I know Maine leans Democratic, and you're a Democrat, but your state isn't a MAGA-free zone. If I pull up my trusty ChatGPT numbers, there's still a sizable chunk of Orange Guy supporters in Maine. And let's be real, they're the ones shouting, "Go home, Canada," and making tourists feel like they're not welcome. This is not just my random Canadian opinion. Premier Holt also states the safety issue too.
But even before the governor heard from the audience, New Brunswick's premier weighed in.
Lots of people don't feel safe in the U.S. right now, and for good reason. And so until that changes, I think the climate for visitors will continue to be difficult.
Despite a drop in travel between Canada and the U.S., Americans and Canadians still make up the bulk of international travelers for both countries. This tourism operator in Halifax has seen an uptick in bookings from Americans arriving by cruise, plus a spike in interest from Canadians.
Canadians are traveling within Canada like we've never seen before. It's really, really impressive.
Canada has also seen fewer overseas visitors, largely from Asia, while getting a bump in interest from Europe. One expert points out how just like we expect to see more Canadians travel within this country, the same might be true for other countries.
We're seeing a bump, not just in domestic travel, but from Europe too. So to our European viewers, thank you. A lot of you are choosing Canada over the US right now. And just know, we're doing the same for you. Same goes for our friends in Australia and New Zealand. The support goes both ways. Now, let me be clear. I don't hate Governor Janet Mills. She's in a tough spot, just like every other American who didn't vote for the orange idiot. But I also think her efforts might be wasted. Canadians who care about our sovereignty? We've already made up our minds. And in the next clip, Governor Mills says her hands are tied, that Trump's return has made things out of her control. That statement from her made me raise some eyebrows. Let's check it out.
I'm honored to join this conversation, and it's something that came out of our meeting in Boston a week and a half ago, a little over a week ago, where Governor Maura Healey and I and other New England and New York governors invited the premiers of the Atlantic provinces to a summit to talk about how we can get over some of the barriers or get through some difficult times and remain the best of friends, of course. And you know that Canada is Maine's closest and most important trading partner. So we are very concerned about the current status of tariffs, among other things. We share a 611-mile-long border with multiple boarding crossings, I think 13 border crossings, 11 bridges, and binational communities. This is unique, Maine and New Brunswick and Quebec. The binational communities we share, Calais and St. Stephen, Holt and Woodstock, Madawaska, Edmundston, they're so closely tied together. It's almost like there's no border there at all.
Oh, there's definitely a border now. It used to be easy. Quick chats, wave-throughs, no stress. But that's gone. Now Canadians have to think twice before crossing, worried about saying the wrong thing, looking too nervous, or having anything a CBP guard decides to flag. And it's not just what you say, it's what's on your phone. One photo, one opinion, one post that doesn't align with the orange guy's agenda, and that could be enough to get pulled into secondary. Like this photo right here. I'll be doing a full video on that soon, so stay tuned. But Governor Mills, with all due respect, there is a border now, a very real one. And everything you're saying, that belongs to a version of the past that no longer exists.
In fact, our border is longer with Canada than our border with the rest of the United States because we only border on one state, and that's New Hampshire. Last year alone, we traded more than $6 billion worth of goods and materials, nearly $5 billion of which came from Canada into Maine. Think about that, what you're doing in trading to Maine. If it were an independent country, New Brunswick would be our largest export market, 5 times the size of our export markets in China, Japan, and Germany together. New Brunswick-based companies like Cavendish, Irving Oil, Irving Lumber, Katahdin Forest Management, Eastern Maine Railway, McCain Foods, and tons of other companies. And companies, Canadian-owned companies in Maine, employ thousands of Maine people and industries in farm supplies, food processing, forestry products, and energy production. The transfer of goods between us, New Brunswick and Maine, is constant and critical, especially when it comes to energy. Maine imports 90% of our propane and 80% of our heating oil and gasoline from Canada. Now, Maine has the oldest housing stock in the nation, too, so think about it. More than 50% of our homes are heated with oil. Where does that oil come from? New Brunswick. Electricity flows both ways, in both directions over our border, to and from New Brunswick. 800,000 Canadians visited Maine last year, half of them from New Brunswick. We are both partners to the International Emergency Management Assistance Compact. We help each other in hard times when there's a natural disaster or some other emergency. Our emergency people go to Canada. Canadian emergency people come to Maine.
Is it just me? Or does this sound like a sales pitch? Because everything you just mentioned, that's the past. Canadians aren't asking what it used to be like. We want to know what you're going to do now and in the future. But based on this next clip, it feels like you, and maybe the whole Democratic Party, are just going to sit back and let it all play out while your country destroys itself. Let's hear it.
So I'm here today to talk to you and listen to you about how we can improve relations despite some obstacles coming from powers that are outside our control, and how we can continue the deep, abiding cultural, economic, financial relationships that are so important to all of us.
I'm sorry, Governor, but this just doesn't cut it. When you say despite obstacles from powers outside our control, 2 things become crystal clear. First, it sounds like you and your party have given up. There's zero pushback. U.S. citizens are protesting harder than the Democrats. Just look at the No Kings movement. Second, instead of confronting the problem, you're turning to Canadians, hoping we'll fix your economic mess by spending our money at your beaches and restaurants. It's been 5 months, and let's be real, it's not getting any better. So what should you be doing? Show Canadians that you and the Democratic governors are willing to fight, not just for your own struggling businesses, but for us too. Show us this isn't just about our wallets. Show us that Canada actually matters to you, not just our tourist dollars. Because unless we see that, you can recite all the feel-good history you want about our close relationship, and it won't mean a damn thing. But what do I know? I'm just a regular Canadian from the West Coast with a small YouTube channel. Now, to be fair, I do appreciate Governor Mills' effort, but it's effort pointed in the wrong direction. If you agree with this, let me know in the comments. And if you think I'm totally off the rails, I want to hear that too. And hey, if this message resonates, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with friends or family who might need to hear it. That's it for today's video. If you're still here and somehow made it through my monotone delivery, thank you. And I'll see you in the next one.